Felicitations! It is me, Felicia Day, and this is my podcast. Hello! Welcome! Summer! Summer fun! Oh boy. So it's been a little bit, I've had a crazy month, and so it's been I'm a little bit negligent, tap tap on the back of the wrist here, but it's been a really good month because things have happened. I think my last podcast was right before my birthday. I had a birthday, y'all. It was a good one. I went to a little town in California, right near Palm Springs called Idlewild. And I really just wanted to go somewhere where I could just relax. And I've never been up in a cabin. And Calliope recently enjoyed being in the woods, my baby. So I was like, all right, I'll rent a little cabin and we'll go up there and it'll be super fun. It would have been because theoretically you can get to Idlewild in about 2 hours, right? From Los Angeles. So I was like, that's fine. I have a toddler in the car for 2 hours. We can make that. She's never done a long road trip before, but I'm like, okay, 2 hours. We can do that. Sometimes just commuting across Los Angeles is an hour, all right? Just getting to the zoo. So I didn't know this, but, and I feel bad for anybody who lives in Idlewild, that basically there was a landslide. There was a fire that went through last year, and then a landslide happened earlier this year and basically cut off the main artery from the town to Palm Springs. Therefore, in order to get to Idlewild from Los Angeles, you have to go to the other side of the mountain and go up the back end. Through the back door, y'all. Got to go through the back door to get to Idlewild. So, which in turn changed that trip from a 2-hour trip to a almost 4.5-hour trip. Which, by the way, if you have a child in the car, she was fantastic, y'all. Okay, I have to brag about my baby. Don't like to brag about her in front of her because my mom was that person at the Clinique counter like, look, Felicia's a prima ballerina. Felicia, do some twirls, random Clinique artist was impressed occasionally. I don't want to do that to her. I want her to be private about whatever it is she needs to be private about. So, but I will brag about her here because having never done a road trip, she was cool for 4.5 hours. The problem was that in order to keep her cool, I had to play baby songs the whole time. Now, I have friends who are very hip, awesome friends, and their kids listen to Hamilton, and they listen to Wicked, and they know all the songs to Little Mermaid and all the Disney, musicals, and they knew hip songs like The Cure. And I tried that, but the only thing Calliope likes is official toddler songs. I try to slip in some Beatles. Casper Baby Pants is the only one that I can get. Anyway, I've talked about this before because I made that podcast. I made the Spotify playlist with all the quote-unquote cool baby songs. Not so cool, but cool enough. But she really is like firm, I need baby songs. So the more mind-numbing and penetrating into the skull, earwormy, the better. Even more than that, she loves to work around a good theme. So, it isn't just a baby song, because I have a playlist of 110 baby songs that are actually okay. I culled it down. I took out all the weird misogynist ones, like ladies ride like this. No, ladies ride however they want. And all the other kind of weird things that ancient nursery rhymes have in them, like murder. And then, so I made a good playlist there. But she recently has been like, oh no, I like focused categories, Mom. So she wants Halloween songs, which she is obsessed with Halloween songs. So I got a playlist of 40 songs. But she'll be like, no, I don't like that one. And I'll be like, okay, I got to fast forward. She's like, she needs a personal DJ. That's okay. Then you get into the firefighter songs, which I have to cull out the ones that only say fireman, all right? I'm not going to let her be limited by the fact that this stupid, horrible song doesn't mention firefighters of both genders. Okay, fine. So, and that is not a big list, y'all. That's maybe 21 songs. And I'm really scraping the barrel when I get to the 21. Even more than that, she was like doctor songs. And doctor songs for children are few and far between, okay? I think My Doctor Might Be a Monkey is one that we have to play 15 times in a row. So let me just tell you, by the time, and my brother Ryan was with us in the car, By the time we got up that mountain, we all just wanted to jump off of it at the top. Whatever, it was cute up there. So evidently, and there was a whole article in the LA Times about how this poor town is dying. All the shops are closing up. Nobody can really pay their rent because they aren't getting the sort of like traffic that they used to. Not my problem. I'm sorry. We just had a nice weekend there, and I would recommend it, but probably when the road is open. So that was my birthday. Then I went to Miami, and I met some really, I hung out with some of the cast of The Office who are really awesome. Oscar Nunez, specifically. And then I met Nick Frost. You guys might have seen my Instagrams. It was, Jonah Ray, who is in Mystery Science Theater with me, knows Nick. He knows all the comedians. He's like very well connected, just as far as like, hey, I know him. And I got to sit in a table with Nick Frost, and I felt very intimidated because Edgar Wright, Nick Frost, Simon Pegg, all that crowd is very like aspirational to me. If I could pick a crowd to be in, it would be that kind of British alt comedy / Hollywood comedy crowd. So I kept my cool, and we took a gram together. So that was pretty fun. And he followed me on Instagram. So I think we're best friends. That was really interesting. And then I released my book. I did a little special podcast update. I'm sure you guys heard it. My book, Embrace Your Weird, Face Your Fears, and Unleash Creativity is coming out. And I feel like people think this is an earnest book, and it's got a lot of earnest stuff in it, but it's really supposed to be funny, and it has a lot of really funny. So basically, it is if you had missed it, go to FeliciaDayBook.com for any pre-orders, and we'll talk about pre-orders in a minute. But the book is about facing your fears and unleashing creativity. That's the subtitle for a reason. It really was, okay, if anybody, I love self-help books. Self-help books got me where I am today. Without The Artist's Way and a bunch of others, I would not be here. I've talked about it before. But a lot of self-help books are a little too earnest, woo-woo-y, crystal-y, a lot of deities involved. And I'm no judgy when it comes to deities. Like, listen, you need a deity in your life, God bless you. That was weird. That was a weird phrase. I am all for like freedom of religion, and that's just not my boat. Spirituality like that is not part of my life, and but I respect anybody who has that. And I felt like maybe that was a bar to entry to some people. Also, I just wanted to do a funny book that would help people. So that's how my book came to be, and it's got tons of exercises that you're supposed to write in your book. You're supposed to write in it, and a lot of really funny drawings. And illustrations, very funny ones. There's a roided out unicorn in there that might be my favorite thing that I ever directed to be drawn. And it was kind of like doing a comic book. You send off like this crazy idea and you get this thing back and you're like, whoa, genius. So that's kind of what this book is. And thank you so much if you pre-order the book. Pre-orders are really important because all those pre-orders count to the New York Times bestseller list for the first week. And this book will be in a how-to and self-help category, which is a little harder to kind of land yourself on because you have to, there are fewer slots, I think. I think they only have 5 people, and then a couple of them have been on for like 132 weeks. So, it's kind of a long shot, but any book pre-ordered is very, very appreciative. Audiobooks do not count toward pre-orders, but anywhere you order it, otherwise, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anything, all the links are on FeliciaDayBook.com. So that's it. At any rate, I'm not going to go push anymore, but pre-order it, please. And it was basically the last year of my life that I've spent on it, and I'm really, really proud of it. And I really do honestly hope it helps some of you listening, some of you not listening, just open up and create and kind of just rediscover who you are inside. Because sometimes you just need to do a little self-evaluation without judgment. And that's really it. So I'm really excited about that. And I did a big book launch and everybody was so supportive. And then I hopped onto another writing project I can't talk about, but I'm super excited about it. I'll be working on that for the rest of the year. And I believe that it's something that you guys will actually be able to hear after we process it next year. That was weird. Process it? Anyway, it is a fictional thing. So my goal in the book form is to make another book next year, a fictional book, but I won't be starting that until next year because this other project came up, and I'm really excited about it. Yeah, I went also to Comic-Con after that. Wow, I've done a lot. Comic-Con was last weekend, And it was a smaller con for me. I decided to go in Thursday and leave on Friday night because I'm going to Raleigh Supercon this weekend, Galaxy Supercon. And I'm really excited about that one because my friend Will Wheaton is going to be there. And we haven't done a con together in quite a while. I text him a lot, but we really haven't hung out. And it's really sad to me. I mean, we've been working together for like 10 years. And the fact that we're not working together on something is a vexing to me. And I would like it to be rectified. So somehow I'm going to make that happen before the end of the year. But so I didn't want to take the whole weekend like I usually do and stay at Comic-Con in San Diego. I was going to bring her down with the nanny and like they could go to the zoo together and stuff. But I was like, there's no way. I can't juggle these two things anymore. It is Guilt City. So I left her behind and I did a really fun sci-fi great debate panel with some really awesome people. Tom Lennon, I've never met, from Reno 911, and he was so funny. Danny Fernandez, Travis McElroy from the Adventure Zone, which, by the way, I did their live stage reading in LA the night before as a surprise, and it was so much fun. That fan base is so great. I really want to guest on one of their shows. It's just, Adventure Zone is a great podcast if you like D&D, and their dad is so nice, and they're just like, talk about people who know what they're doing in life and getting it right. So God bless them. Why am I saying God bless everybody? Oh, boy. What am I doing? I'm turning into somebody's like naggy aunt. So anyway, and I went to dinner for the first time with people at Comic-Con. Now, I know that's crazy. Like, not a big a deal. But you guys, I've never had a schedule that allowed me the 2 hours to sit down with my friends and have a real dinner. It's always just been eating a Starbucks like sandwich along the way. And so just having that moment of having a lovely dinner with my friends Kate Micucci and a couple of other people I worked with at Geek and Sundry in the day, and a friend of hers who I'd never met, and I met a new friend. I'm like, whoa, this is how real people do cons. So I'm kind of excited about it. Of course, I did have like mixed feelings because, you know, my old company used to be like a big force there, and not being involved in that makes me feel a little, you know, empty and FOMO-y. So, you know, complicated feelings, but overall, like, I was glad to see so many fans there. If you're on my Discord, we had a little meetup at a whiskey room, and I saw a lot of fans there, so that was great. Good times, guys. And so, yeah, I'm starting new things. I'm super excited about it. I can't tell you, you know, I think I mentioned in my last podcast, or maybe I mentioned it on Twitter, I left all my representatives, my agents and my managers. So I'm going to start fresh later this year with new people. The people I used to work with were very nice. I had a birthday and I was like, I got to change something. And it was so scary, you guys, but it's for the best. Like sometimes you just need to change. It's kind of like, you know, sometimes people break up and you're just like, why did they break up? They seem pretty good together. And they were like, yeah, it was fine. And then we need to change. And that's perfectly fine. We can be friends still. And especially when you're in a work relationship, it's hard to be like, I don't know what's out there for me. I just don't know what's next. And that sort of fear kind of keeps people from taking risks. And I've realized in my career, nothing wonderful has ever come out of me being safe or waiting to be taken care of. And that is just, I think a lot of people in this world, including me, just kind of, you know, hope for the best and hope somebody will pluck us up and rescue us. Nobody's rescuing us. No Mario's going to come rescue us from, you know, Bowser's Castle, y'all. That was a weird analogy, but, well, I mean, we're all a little Princess Peach, aren't we? Yooby-dooby-doo. So I feel like I really aim to have this birthday start a new leaf, and I feel very energized and excited about it. And I am excited to have you guys here along this new journey with me, being a creator and trying new things. There was the Supernatural panel was on Sunday, and I had to leave before then. And that was the most FOMO I felt because I saw that there were a lot of other cast members there, kind of in either around or in the wings, and I was like, oh wow, that's a family. Even more than anything, a family I love belonging to, and I really wanted to stay and say hi to the guys and everything. And I can only hope that I'm a part of the season coming up. If not, that's fine too. But it will always be such a significant part of my life. And I feel like that family is the one that took best care of me throughout, you know, several years of tough stuff. So there you go. Okay, talk about things I consumed. I've consumed a lot of things. I read a couple of books that were pretty slow. Before I go into consuming in a couple questions. Last weekend when I came home from Comic-Con, I guess you guys are familiar with the fact that I have a thyroid issue. I've talked about it innumerable times. I also talked about the fact that I was on a too high of a dose in the spring, and that's what was giving me insomnia and heart palpitations and the panic attacks. I halved my dose on advice of my endocrinologist, and she prescribed me 25 milligrams, but she said, well, you can just use half your pills that you were taking before. So I was taking a generic for Synthroid, which is the thyroid medicine, levothyroxine, and I got it from the pharmacy, and it was an oval pill, and I just snapped it in half, and I took it, and it was like night and day. So I've been really good for about 2 to 3 months. I ran out of that pill right before I left for Comic-Con. I refilled the prescription. I took the old pill and took the rest of the old pills to Comic-Con, took them, came home, and I started half of the new pill, which was exactly the same dosage that I was taking before, half of a 25 milligrams, but it was a round pill. And I didn't really think anything of it because I double-checked the label, and I looked up the back of the pill online, and it was the same drug, except not, because I immediately got panic attacks, horrible heart palpitations, insomnia, all the horrible things. I took it 2 days in a row, and I'm not kidding you guys. I was actually going to go to the hospital because it was like my chest was about to burst out of my chest. My chest was about to burst. Okay, my heart was about. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so I called the doctor and I was like, "What is going on?" And evidently, especially thyroid medication, is so different. Even the genetic formulation or the generic formulation. That's why they only want people to take Synthroid, the brand name, because that's the only way you can have a standard there. And I'm like, how could Rite Aid just do this and not warn me it's a new formulation? It's just crazy to me. Then I tweeted something about, hey, don't take medication if it looks different. Call your doctor. And I guess I was probably pretty irritated that day because I was still way hyped up on thyroid medication that I shouldn't have been taking. And somebody tweeted to me, not a professional doctor. This could literally kill people. And so I deleted the tweet, which, by the way, could help people. I got so angry. I was just like, I can't do anything without somebody crawling out of my butthole or up my butthole on Twitter and correcting me in a dick way. I'm sorry if this person was really trying to reprimand me, but anyway, it made me unhappy. And so I deleted the tweet. That was the most annoying thing that happened in 4 weeks. And the thyroid thing. If none of those things had happened, things would be great. Okay. So I did consume a lot of stuff, and a lot of it was podcasts because I was driving a lot around, and I had a lot of appointments. And so I have 3 new podcasts that I really love that I'd like to share with you. One of them is called Fall of Civilization by Paul Cooper. And there's only like 6 episodes, but they are so well researched and so fascinating. And each episode is about a different civilization and how it fell. Yes, it's a little bit depressing, but combined with a lot of the other books that I've been reading, a lot of big, broad historical sort of like views of civilization and humanity. Actually, at the same time I was listening to the podcast, I was reading this book called 1491 by Charles C. Mann, and it's about how the Americas were inhabited in a much different way than we perceive nowadays before Columbus got here. You know, we have this idea of like, isolated sort of like Native Americans who live at one with the land, not very many of them, kind of walking softly through, we have this idea, softly through the forests, maybe hunting, we have this sort of archaic, weird, terrible, sort of cliched idea of how people lived in the Americas before, Europeans came. And it's so incredibly inaccurate, and it's so fascinating. This is such a great book. It's very in-depth and very just nuanced and well-researched, and I would highly recommend it. It changed my whole view of everything kind of in history. It turns out there were millions of people here. There were millions and millions. They had a huge impact on the environment. They formed, they basically terrascaped a lot of the environment for them to be able to grow certain kind of vegetables. The way they burned the crops, they would clear forests and do slash and burn in order to sort of like get the grazing animals. It's so fascinating. I don't want to mangle all the history of it, But essentially, there were millions and millions of people here with incredibly advanced civilizations. They didn't invent some things, like the Mayans didn't invent the wheel, which is like, huh? But, everybody evolves in a different way, right? And the way that humanity even got here, it's a lot more complicated than anybody could really appreciate. And the fact that basically 90% of people were probably wiped out by disease, and the Europeans didn't even know it. The disease, like smallpox and influenza and things, would even sort of like supersede them into areas that they'd never been explored. So when they got there, they would think, oh, no one lives here. But huge towns would have been there, or civilizations would have been there had the diseases not wiped them out. So it's so fascinating. I so recommend the book, 1491, and the Fall of Civilizations podcast. It really just gives you an overview of humanity in a really fascinating way. The thing about the podcast, which is really fascinating, is that a lot of the factorials associated with the fall of civilization were things that I feel like we're kind of going through now. I mean, there's huge inequality between the rich and the poor, which creates sort of a societal instability, and then an environmental sort of complication, either climate change, some kind of climatic change, like volcanoes coming through, or just a mini ice age and things like that. Like, things will come through and destabilize the region where people just don't have enough to live, to eat, and survive. You have revolutions and things taking down the elite, who were kind of coasting on the poor people, kind of supporting them for so long. And then everything crumbles because the infrastructure crumbles. People forget how to sort of like do the art and the writing and things like that. It's fascinating how it's just kind of a pattern, and the way that he lays it out is so wonderful and makes me scared. Like, I don't think that our society is going to collapse in my lifetime, because if you look, it's like societies collapse over hundreds of years. It's not like instantaneous, right? Unless it's something like Pompeii happens or whatever. It's really over hundreds of years, people clearing forests, not really having, all sorts of drought will come through that basically maybe happened with sun flares. Maybe it was, man-made. Like, there's just so many interesting factors. But end of story, like, wealth inequality, climate change, boom, everything collapses. So in a couple hundred years, we're probably screwed. That's why I recycle. Was that nerdy? I was so nerdy. The other podcasts I really love are Strong Songs by Kirk Hamilton. Now, Kirk Hamilton, if you are a gamer, you might know him from his wonderful Kotaku articles and analysis and reviews over the years. He's one of the best video game writers out there. And he was actually not a video game writer. He kind of stumbled into that from music. And so he has started his own podcast called Strong Songs, where he analyzes songs in a fascinating way. He'll take one song and basically pull out the themes. He did basically listen to his Hamilton episode, and it's the most fascinating entry point into music analysis and breaking down of themes. I mean, through that one song, you understand all of Hamilton in a fascinating way, and you appreciate Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like, if you didn't appreciate him before, you're probably a maniac, but you will appreciate the care and the composition and the artistry of Hamilton in so many more ways than you did before. So Strong Songs by Kirk Hamilton and Ologies by Alie Ward is hilarious and fascinating. I want her to be my best friend. She interviews people who are specialists, like ologists, so archaeologists or personalityologists. She has some really obscure ones, and she kind of like she interviews experts in these kind of, what do you do and how their craft pertains to the world, what they can teach people. And she does fascinating just overviews. It's just well researched and just so smart and funny. And she does these funny asides. So if you like what I do, you'll probably, it's kind of like, I remember I edited my vlogs. And so if I did a real podcast, I would aspire to be her format. So those are the 3 podcasts I really recommend. As far as books, that 1491, man, that was like a 3-week reader, man. It is long, and every single part is fascinating. I did also read a book called Archaeology from Space by Sarah Parcak. I got it because of Neil Gaiman tweeted it. So thank you, Neil. And it's about this amazing archaeologist whose life is fantastic, but she basically pioneered the technique of using satellite imagery to find old ruins, and how that's sort of revolutionized. She did a huge TED Talk and got this $1 million prize to kind of launch a community-based outsourcing to try to have regular people like you guys or me analyze different satellite images and see if they could potentially unlock and uncover old sites. It's really fascinating, and I really, just reading that book, I admire what she does and what archaeologists do, because it's not nearly as glamorous as you'd think. Indiana Jones is a little bit of a misnomer, but that's why she became an archaeologist, because of Indiana Jones, and she even relays a story about how she met Harrison Ford, which is so great. And it also reminds me, as an artist, like, I sometimes get like nerd envy. I was like, I would love to be the specialist in troubadours from the 13th century, okay? I would love to be the world expert in just one specific thing. But if, as an artist, I can incorporate somebody who does that in my art, would that that could inspire somebody to then specialize in that and become that person. I talk about this in my book a little bit. Like, everything that we do is creative. Even little tiny creativity is meant to be out there in the world because it might potentially affect somebody else in a small creative way, and so on and so on and so on. It's like a creative butterfly effect. And I think when we kind of look at our own self-expression like that, we can kind of be a little easier on ourselves in letting it all out. Okay, so those are the 2 books. I am now reading a book called The Age of Wonder by Richard Holmes, and it's a book about the scientists of the 18th and 19th century and how they influenced the romantic arts. It's really just about a bunch of scientists and how badass they were, just doing incredible like adventures and just like the world that they had and they were uncovering in astronomy and botany and biology and anthropology. Like, it was just a new opening of, it was like a new world in a sense. And these key sort of scientists kind of opened up the world to the world and were pioneering. Like, can you imagine like looking, creating your own telescope and basically finding a planet, and that happening during our lifetime? It's kind of like, I think the only equivalent we could have now is really truly finding extraterrestrial life. That kind of wonder, like, oh my gosh, there's something completely unexplored on our planet. And that affected the art, the art at the time in a big way. So I'm recommending it, and I'm reading it, and it's going to take a while to get through because I read things that are calming before bed. I said that weird. All right, couple questions. Let's see. Angela Campbell says, longtime fan, I dedicated a book to you. Angela, thank you. The past few years have been tough for me, and one way I fight my own depression is by volunteering with a cat rescue group. I know you've held successful fundraisers before, and any fundraising tips you can share. That's amazing, Angela. First of all, thank you again for the book. That's incredible. Second of all, support through your own depression. I think as artists, we get knocked down a little bit easier than non-artists, but we're all artists inside, so we all get knocked down. And the fact that you're doing good with that and escaping from the morass of your own mind and trying to help other beings is really admirable to me and inspiring, actually. I used to do, when I was just an actor, I would do a lot of rescue organization work on the side, and it always made me feel like life was really worth living and full and meaningful in a way that just, if I'm just hanging out on Twitter, this not. My fundraising tips to you are, I am in a different position in that I have a lot of followers. And so it's a little bit, I got to say, if anybody donated to Rice's on my birthday, I think we raised over $12,000 just from Facebook. So I want to thank you for donating to that amazing cause, trying to protect and fight the things that our government is doing to immigrant children. It's just horrifying. You think, wow, I can't believe this is happening, and yet it's still happening and still happening and still happening. I mean, the fundraiser we did last year on my birthday raised almost $300,000, and yet they didn't stop. It's like it definitely pricks the palate in me that to know that no, bad things that people do don't necessarily get punished immediately. I still have faith, but I am a little bit bruised. I'm a little bit more chaotic neutral than I was before this Trump thing. Anyway, so I guess my advice to you would be to really target locally. I think the more face-to-face advocacy you can do, the better. Also, just be innovative in the way that you do fundraising, like do an event, any kind of event where you can get people to kind of like group up. And people will donate their time, they'll donate space, they'll donate, really being, I think creativity is it. And as an author, you obviously have a lot of creativity. What if you do a little Renaissance fair, or you, do your own, nerd party kind of thing, or a gala. I know the Stray Cat Alliance here does like a gala every year. I mean, is there any small amount of work you do is good work. And also just networking with other, maybe joining forces with other animal rescues and do like a bigger animal rescue event. It is really hard to get attention with all the noise out there. And I really do feel very bad for smaller organizations, especially since the tax laws recently basically disincentivize you from donating to charity. It's great, guys. So smaller charities are really struggling right now. So I think being personal, whenever I get a flyer and it's like little Mochi lost an eye, I'm always sending $20. So I think more specific and more personified the animals that you are advocating for, the better. And also just design your things online really nicely. I think that's one thing that people kind of miss the mark online, is like how you present yourself. Like, you don't want to go and look like a slob to a job interview, right? You don't want to present your online. I mean, find somebody who does good graphic design and design the graphic elements to your fundraising page in a way that makes people feel like, oh, this is simple for me to understand, and I want to help this cat with one eye. Oh, Angela. Ooh. Okay, that's my advice. Good luck, Angela, and thank you again for helping with the kitties. Jennifer Preston asks, you mentioned taking Calliope to cons with you as a baby. Taking toddlers places is hard. Oh boy, do you think you'll take her to cons more when she's a little older? Maybe that's like taking your kid to work. I imagine you get recognized too much to go for fun. We take our kids 5 and 2 to cons where we can afford to, and they have fun, but it's stressful. Though it is fun to see what they're excited about and to introduce them to geeky stuff. That is pretty great. I would love to take Calliope. Like you said, I brought her to conventions until she was 2 years old because I was breastfeeding her and I could not be away from her. When she was 2, I decided to wean her from my boobies, but also from that, because it's just like her age. You're right. It's like for a weekend, it's just not worth taking her necessarily. You've heard copious details about my European vacation last year, and it kind of traumatized me. So no, she hasn't been on a plane. I would love to when she's 5, I think. I mean, I don't really know kids that well. I don't know how to grade them. But I've seen other 5-year-olds at conventions, and it warms my heart when they are in their Batgirl or Superman costumes. And it makes me so happy. And I would love to introduce her to that world in a way where it doesn't feel like work, because you're right. It is like taking my baby to work. And but I want her to see the artist's drawing. For a while, I had artists draw her face and put it in a little book. And some artists made the funniest sketches of her as superheroes, and some of them were just like her ears are bigger than her head. And I don't know, it just was really fun way to kind of track her growing. And I've fallen off the wagon because she isn't actually there anymore. So that's something I'd really like to revisit. I don't want to indoctrinate her. I just want her to grow into what she is. But she started playing with her Supergirl figurine today, and I was like, yes, my plan is working. All right. David Mello asks, just wanted to say I love your podcast. Felicitations. 2 questions. You've been saying y'all a lot. Are you embracing your Southern roots? And are you happy with how the MST3K comic turned out? 1, I'm saying y'all because I'm trying to not say guys as much. I had some people on Twitter asking me to curb that, and I got really defensive and like, well, guys is gender neutral to me. But then I thought about it, and I was like, is it really that hard for me to change this? And really, I try to be gender neutral with my baby and call all kids kids. So is it really that big a deal for me to try to curb this? And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I'm not entirely successful at it, but I'm making efforts, and I believe that's all that counts, at least until I do it too long. And I am really excited about the MST3K comic. We've done a couple of live readings of the comic, and I'm so happy with them. Joel is so funny, and I love the idea of, there are some bad comics out there. It is incredible. So anyway, yeah, that's it. All right, you know what? This has been a really long podcast, so I'm going to wrap it up because I had so much to talk to you about up front. I want to thank you guys for sticking with me with this podcast. It is, I understand it's maybe not the most broadly appealing thing because I am kind of insular and I talk by myself and I just upload it without editing. Sorry about the ums. But I really enjoyed the dialogue. I would love to sort of formalize this into a more boisterous, not beta podcast. And I feel like in order to do that, I kind of need more of a hook. I would love to talk about something specific and have guests on. So I'm kind of working on that to kind of hone in on before the end of the year. So look for that eventually, and that newsletter I keep mentioning that will never happen. Okay, thanks a lot. Please pre-order my book at FeliciaDayBook.com. I will see some of you in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm doing a panel with Will for the first time in a couple years, and I'm so excited, y'all. So yeah, thanks a lot. I will see you guys later. Please, if you haven't reviewed the podcast, please do it. Those ratings really help. Okay, bye.